So Rav Tatz, we're dealing with this concept over here that there's prophecy and there's free will. And if something is prophetically ordained, then it would seem that you don't really have free will in such a case. And we spoke about different ways that we could understand that even with prophecy still, we can get around it. And the last thing that we left off was with the Rabbi who explains that if you go beyond if you go beyond the suffering that the prophecy says you're supposed to inflict upon the Jewish people, so then you are no longer in the realm of prophecy. You're now in the realm of free will, and for any ounce of pain that you cause to the Jewish people beyond what was prophesied, so you're going to be held accountable for such a thing. So he quotes over here the Ramban. The Ramban is Nachmanides. Nachmanides says like this. Number one, he holds two things. Number one, he holds like the Ravid, that the people that oppressed the Jewish people were punished for the suffering they caused beyond what was decreed. That's number one. So why were they punished? Again, Hashem told over Abraham there's going to be a prophecy. There'll be a nation. Let's call them the Egyptians. They're going to rise up against the Jewish people. They're going to punish them for 400 years. They're going to enslave them, make their lives miserable. And Hashem says, and I'll punish them as well. So the question is, well, why are you punishing them? They're just doing what you asked them to do. So the Horowitz says that because that they acted beyond what was the level of punishment and wickedness that Hashem had in mind, for that's called their free will, and therefore they're going to be punished. But the Ramban gives another reason as well. And he says over here a very deep concept, and that is the motivations of the Egyptians were illicit when they were coming to enslave and make the lives of the Jewish people miserable. And he says like this, when an oppressor acts only for the sake of fulfilling a divine decree, he will not be held accountable. If there is a divine decree against the Jewish people that they have to suffer a certain amount, and a wicked man rises up and he oppresses the Jewish people, exactly the amount that Hashem had decreed that is going to take place, so then not only is this oppressor not going to be held accountable, on the contrary, he could even claim he deserves reward because he's carrying out Hashem's will. If Hashem decreed that there's supposed to be whatever for the Jewish people, they're supposed to be beaten and tortured, and it's supposed to be a certain way, and he does exactly as it was supposed to be, so then he says, you're going to punish me? Hashem, I'm your agent in this world. I'm doing exactly what you asked me to do, which is why, as we mentioned previously, the Malach HaMavis, the angel of death, he doesn't get punished. He's doing the bidding of Hashem. People have to die. He goes and he grabs them. He just did the job he's supposed to do. We mentioned, I think as George asked, so then why was the serpent and the snake in the Garden of Eden, why was he punished? He was just doing what God told him to do. So it would come out very good like this. He went beyond what he had to do. He totally, his mission was just get man to sin and take a little bite from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But he was so convincing and he got him to do so much worse. So the serpent went beyond the call of duty over here, and he outdid himself in his own wickedness. Says the Ramban, if someone that's an enemy of the Jewish people does exactly what Hashem had already decreed is going to take place, then he says, Hashem, I'm a hero. I'm carrying out your mission and your divine plan in this world. Don't punish me. You should reward me. But when he takes the opportunity conveniently opened to him by divine decree to assert his own personal agenda and oppress the Jews for his own nefarious ends, he's certainly guilty, and that is why conquerors and oppressors of the Jews are punished severely. Says the Ramban, I get it, he says. If you do what Hashem said that should be done, if you fulfill the words of the prophecy to a T, you are exempt. You don't deserve 1 ounce of punishment. You just did the job. So you are just you're almost like a robot in God's world, fulfilling His decree. Can't punish you for that. But if you take advantage of this situation, and you see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to oppress the Jewish people, and then you insert your own personal agenda because you're a wicked person and you want to make their lives miserable beyond what Hashem originally had in mind, so then you are going to be punished commensurate with that which you added on to the punishments that you are doing, to the suffering that you gave. And therefore he says, their actions may have been correct, but their intentions were not. Attitude and intention make all the difference.
How do you know what's condemnable? How do you know what
The appropriate amount of
the
punishment.
appropriate amount is? How does the enemy of the Jews know this is what Hashem, without going overboard,
Right.
underboard?
The way that he's making a distinction is, it all depends on what their intentions are. Meaning that if we are getting the Jewish people and we're going to afflict the Jewish people because we despise the Jewish people and we can't stand them and we want to make their lives miserable, so then even though in a peripheral way I could say, well, I'm just doing the will of God because he said it's going to happen, but Hashem says, no. I'm looking into your heart, I'm looking into your mind, and I know what your real intention is right now. You're not doing this because I said this is what should be done. You're doing this because of your devious, insidious ways. You are coming to destroy the Jewish people. So don't blame it on me, says Hashem, that you don't deserve to be punished because I already decreed such a thing is going to happen. When you take this law into your own hands and you go beyond the call of duty in your nefarious ways, says the Ramban, you then are going to be punished, rightfully so. So, would the wicked person know what's the limit of what God really had in mind? He wouldn't know. But if he would be doing things merely because he happened to read the Bible, and it says in the Bible that there's going to be a nation that will rise up against the Jewish people, and therefore he's going to go and he's going to afflict them, so then you're doing it because Hashem said. If you are put in a position somewhere in the history of the world, and the Jewish people are misbehaving, and therefore Hashem makes a decree that they're going to get destroyed, and you come along, not because you're a rabid anti-Semite, and you can't stand the Jewish people, and you want to put them in the gas chambers, and burn them up to smithereens, so then you could always claim, Hashem, clearly you were upset with the Jewish people, there was a terrible decree that was there, I'm just following your will. So when it's beyond following the will of Hashem, which he's saying over here, it would seem to be that all the conquerors and the oppressors of the Jewish people, our enemies, they're all like that. They're all going beyond what they're supposed to do.
So if they were not, let's say they wouldn't do as harsh as God would have wanted,
Correct.
they'd be punished too.
Say again?
If God made a decree that you should punish these people, and they go overboard, they get punished.
Right.
If they go under what God had intended.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. No, you're saying meaning that God wanted a certain amount of pain to be inflicted on the Jewish people, and Hitler just couldn't bring himself to do it. But whoever it was, whoever the enemy, the nasty enemy of the Jewish people was, he just didn't live up to the part of a wicked man.
Of what God wanted to.
I know. It's fine. Fair question. Again, they can surely see. No, they can surely see that they're in a place to afflict the Jewish people. So it depends. What is their real intent when they're doing it? So am I living the decree of God, or am I got my own skin in the game over here?
But do you think the Egyptians said, I'm doing this for God? Yeah. I'm going to enslave these people for God, and I'm going to go crazy.
So they could have. They could have said, look, the Jewish people clearly are being punished. That's what the prophecy was to Abraham. We're the nation that's going to do it. So let's just punish them and enslave them. Why did they have to become so ruthless and so devious in their punishment to the Jewish people? So that the Ramban is saying, that's their fault. They went beyond what they were supposed to do. So listen to say, therefore he writes over here, attitude and intention make all the difference. Meaning, it's decreed, yes, that the Jewish people will suffer. But what is your intention and what is your attitude towards it? Am I doing it because I'm just filling in the place in history that there has to be some enemy that's going to come and afflict the Jewish people, but I'm just doing the bidding of God's decree? Or am I I'm investing myself into this right now, and I myself want to destroy the Jewish people to the best that I possibly can. Says the Ramban, so now you took it upon yourself. And Hashem knows that, and therefore for that you're going to be punished. So he writes like this. This is the words of Rabbi Tatz. By this account, the Egyptians were punished for all that they did to the Jews. Everything they did, they got punished. Number one, there was excess suffering that was not decreed. That's the words of the Rabbi and the Ramban. And number two, and for all the suffering because their intentions were malicious. Every ounce of suffering that they inflicted, their intentions were malicious, not because they just want to be a messenger of God in this story to fulfill his prophecy, and therefore they are going to be punished for every ounce of suffering that they did. Because from the very beginning, even if you could say up until a certain point, it was all within the realm of what God ordained. So maybe you could claim until they got to that point, I shouldn't get punished for that. So says Rabbi Tatz, not true. Since their initial intention was malicious, it was only for their own selfish reasons that they wanted to destroy the Jewish people. So therefore, every ounce of suffering they gave, even the ones that was not beyond the harshness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu decreed, even for that, it's on them, and therefore they're going to get punished. And with that, we're going to leave it over here. Gave you enough to think about. Well, next week, Monday and Wednesday, I will be here. The week after that, I won't. No, I will. Next week, Monday and Wednesday, I will be here. The week after that, I'll just remind you again, I won't be here Monday and Wednesday. Okay, so Wednesday is Shavuos, Chag Sameach to everybody. There's no class on Wednesday. And next week, Monday and Wednesday, there should be class. Okay, thank you very much.